Today on the LA Food Podcast, I'm your host, Lucas Servodio, about to pour some sugar on you because today's episode is a sweet one. We're joined by LA's Queen of Confections, Valerie Gordon, the chocolatier, chef, and entrepreneur behind Valerie Confections and Valerie Echo Park. Valerie's been blessing us with chocolates, truffles, and baked goods since 2004 and has recently opened a snazzy new location in Glendale. She joins us to walk us through her sugar-fueled career from the early days of churning out chocolate-dipped toffee out of a mid-city apartment to her recent foray into the afternoon tea game. She breaks down what it takes to run a food business that lasts the test of time, and let me tell you, she does not sugarcoat any of the details. But first, I want to tell you about a little baking adventure of my own. Let's just say your boy got super inspired at Pizza City Fest, but is nowhere near being the next Tony Gemignani. What are you going to do? Without further ado, let's chow down. Happy Friday, dear listener. I don't know about you, but I'm absolutely stoked for the weekend. We have a pretty great episode for you today. I am very excited about the conversation you're about to listen to with Valerie Gordon of Valerie Confections and Valerie Echo Park. But before we get there, talking to someone who actually runs a bakery got me thinking about a little baking snafu I encountered over the past week that I thought would be fun to share with you all. And I have selfish reasons as well, the selfish reason being I kind of want to see if there's anybody out there who wants to provide me some tips and tricks. So let me begin at a food festival that I went to a couple weeks now. It was Pizza City Fest LA. It's a brand new festival that was launched this year for the first time at LA Live, and it was hosted by a friend of mine called Steve Dolinsky. You may recall him from an earlier episode of this podcast. He's a Chicago-based author, broadcaster, pretty much just food expert extraordinaire, and he's kind of made a name for himself as like the mayor of pizza, especially in Chicago. He wrote the book on Chicago pizza. Literally, there's literally a book out there on Chicago pizza written by Steve, and he created this event to showcase a bunch of different pizzas around Chicago initially. I think they had the first edition of Pizza City Fest last year in Chicago. And this year, he brought the event to Los Angeles at LA Live. He convened like dozens of different pizzerias, and they were all at the event space at LA Live serving slices. There was everything from Detroit style to Neapolitan to just like, artisan wood-fired. I really, really dug this event for multiple reasons. First and foremost, Steve did a really good job of getting pizzerias that are in Los Angeles, but also sort of like in the surrounding areas. He brought in places from Orange County. There was a spot from Dana Point. There was a spot from Thousand Oaks and Agora Hills, pardon me, if you're from that part of the world. There was a place that came down from San Francisco. Shout out, I believe they were called Longbridge. They had like a sourdough crust thing going on. And that to me was the best part of it. Obviously, if you're a pizza head in Los Angeles, chances are you've been to a lot of the really great pizza spots. But this was a great event no matter where your entry point for pizza was, because whether you've had all the spots in Los Angeles and you wanted to check out places that you hadn't been to from the surrounding areas, or if you were a pizza aficionado that hadn't gone to all the Los Angeles hotspots, you had them all in one place, and you were able to like go from booth to booth trying, Pizzana or D-Town Pizzeria or L'Antica Pizzeria da Michele. There were so many different options, and it was a very well-run event, super smooth. I initially was a little skeptical of the fact that you didn't get to have unlimited pizza. There was like 12 slices available with the regular pass and 16 slices available with the VIP pass. And initially I was like, hey, I'm a big hungry boy, I'm going to need more than that. But I have to say, I didn't even make it through my entire pass. I think I got to like 6 different spots or 7 different spots. And, by the time I had those and a few beers, I had pizza coming out of my ears. I particularly enjoyed pizza from Tribute, a San Diego pizzeria. They were doing a really nice, like, Detroit style square, and they partnered with Heritage Barbecue, which is a barbecue spot I've been meaning to check out for a long time. They added like it was like a braised brisket thing on top. Oh my God, that thing was absolutely out of this world. So definitely highly recommend getting to Pizza City Fest next year just for the pizza. But the added benefit to Pizza City Fest was that they had panels. And if you are a pizza head like me, that is such a draw to going to one of these things, to be able to like be in the same room as people you really look up to, people you really admire, and hear them just like talk really frankly about their craft, their journeys. It was a really special series of panels that Steve put together. The one that really spoke to me was one called The Dough Whisperers. It was hosted by Neil Broner, who you might know on Instagram as Slow Rise Pizza, and he's sort of like a pizza consultant, I think. You know, he's one of these people that like knows so much about dough that like places that are opening up that want to serve pizza reach out to him to like consult on their dough. He's like he's kind of like a pizza savant, you know. He hosted the panel, and on it were Evan Funky of Mother Wolf and Funky and all those great places. There was Daniele Uditi, my boy from Pizzana, and there was also the guy who owns Bub and Grandma's. So, you know, there was a diversity of different, you know, dough experts on there. And it was just such a fun discussion because they were just talking, you know, very generally about their approach to dough. And I think that when you think about dough and making dough, whether it's for bread or for pizza or for whatever, I've typically always associated it more with science than with art. You know, it's baking. And in baking, oftentimes you have to be very exact. You need to have the exact measurements. You need to know exactly which the amount of flour to use against which hydration with a special type of yeast, and then there's the temperature factor, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've never really thought of it as this like very, you know, organic living process. But the way they were talking about it, they were very encouraging of just getting in the kitchen and experimenting. Basically, like, yes, it's science, but there's also an element of art and creativity and feeling to it, you know? They really were so like positive and optimistic about people's ability to just, you know, combine these ingredients of flour, water, yeast, and just have fun. Get in there, discover what works for you, get a feel for it. You know, they also were very clear that it's okay to fail when you're doing this, when you're trying to make your own dough. Now, for me, in the past, I have made dough. I've made lots of different pizza styles. I've really tried to experiment in the past, and by experiment I mean try different recipes. You know, I've watched so many YouTube videos about like, you know, how to get the perfect Neapolitan dough versus, you know, whether you're trying to make a more Roman style slice, and then getting in the kitchen and trying to make it work for myself. And more often than not, I've been disappointed. You know, even when I've made a decent pizza, there's always been an element of it just wasn't perfect. It just didn't hit the mark, like compared to the other pizzas I've had around town. And I oftentimes used to blame it on my oven. You know, I used to blame it on the fact that I didn't have one of these high heat, like wood burning numbers. It's just a home oven. How could you possibly expect me to make, you know, an extraordinary pizza? And I think to some extent that's true, but also to a much larger extent, that's kind of just an excuse. You can definitely make a really excellent restaurant quality pizza in your home with your home oven. And the panel, the Dough Whisperers panel, really inspired me to get into the kitchen and just start playing around with dough. So literally the weekend after, my wife after the festival, my wife was out, and so, you know, I just decided to play around with some dough. I got in the kitchen and I bought some bread flour because I wanted to make something that was a little more like a baker's pizza, something more like a Roman style. So I combined, bread flour with some just commercial yeast, and lukewarm water. And I tried a method which was don't knead it so much, just knead it enough to combine all the ingredients. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pop it in the fridge and let it ferment over a few days and sort of let the time do the work of, letting that gluten develop within the dough. Um, Let me tell you, I was not optimistic because I'd never done it this way. And I definitely think my lack of optimism came through in the end product. Something that Evan Funky said on the panel, and I kind of mocked it on the last podcast, and I stand by mocking it. But he said that dough senses fear. As bombastic as a statement that is, I think there's some truth to it. I definitely think, the dough can sense if you're not feeling it. If you don't believe in yourself, ain't no way that a good product is coming out. And, I think I went in there with like a positive attitude of wanting to experiment, but I don't think I really believed in myself. And let me tell you, I did not make an excellent pizza. So I left that dough in there for like 2 days to cold ferment. And when I opened it up, it had zero rise. Like the yeast had not activated at all. It was the exact same clump of dough that I had made a few days before. And I thought, what the hell? I'll try and pop it in the oven anyways. So I turned on my oven to like 480 or something. I pulled out the dough ball from the refrigerator and I just let it sit for a couple hours to get to room temp. And I flattened it out. And when I was flattening it out, I could tell this was not going to be a delicious pizza. This was giving pie crust, not so much pizza dough. There was very little elasticity to it. And yeah, sure enough, when I pulled it out of the oven, it was a damn cracker, a damn cracker. Didn't taste horrible, but it was not anything close to pizza. But you know what? I'm going to take what I learned on that panel, which is, just have fun with it. Don't give up. This is supposed to be fun, and I'm not going to let this little setback stop me. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try something different next time in terms of method, and I'll report back on how things go. But yeah, have you ever tried to make pizza? If so, I would love to hear how you do it. Would love to hear any tips and tricks you have for the home chef. And yeah, and if anybody wants to come on and talk making pizza, let me know. We could do a whole episode on pizza making. Anyways, enough about my amateur baking exploits. It's time to talk to somebody who actually knows what they're doing. We'll be right back with Valerie Gordon. Okay, I'm so excited because today we are joined by a very special guest. We are joined by a creative director, CEO, executive chef, but it's really just Valerie Gordon of Valerie Confections and Valerie Echo Park. Valerie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Much better now. It's actually been kind of a wild day, but it's really nice to sit down and be able to have a chat with you. You said what are your stomping grounds in the city?
I live in Laurel Canyon, but
Nice.
my businesses are in Glendale and Echo Park, and I kind of
Hmm.
I go all over. I'm mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. That's good. I mean, in LA, to really get the most of the city, you gotta be mobile.
hmm
Are you from LA? Are you born and raised here? Or you're transplant.
No, I'm a California gal though, but I'm a transplant. I was born and raised in San Francisco, and I moved
Okay.
here in '98. So I'm I mean, I I've been here for more than a minute, for sure.
I think that makes you an Angelino at this point.
I do too. I definitely
Yeah.
consider it home. I don't reference San Francisco as my home anymore.
Do you still carry some of that San Francisco like superiority that they have up there, or are you an LA like, ride or die at this point?
But I think that San Francisco's superiority has been humbled naturally. So I don't, there's definitely been some large shifts in the city in the last few years. So I don't want to, you know, magnify any challenges that my hometown is experiencing. But I
Of
would say
course.
I always say I'm from Los. When people say where are you from, I say Los
Yeah.
Angeles. When people say where where were you born, it's San Francisco.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm the same way. I was actually born in Europe and I grew up
Hmm.
in Europe, but I've been here for like more than a decade now, and I very much consider myself an Angelino, and I always tell
Hmm.
people I'm from Los Angeles. So I completely hear you on that. And you know, San Francisco has great food. Were you always passionate about food growing up, or was it something you found a little later in life?
No, I was always really, really into food as a child. And my parents were very much about quality food. They were very dedicated to home cooking. My dad actually ran an organic farm like forever ago. Um,
Wow.
so like we didn't eat fast food. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
eat, and we were definitely exposed to, and this was one of the great things about growing up in San Francisco is I was always exposed to every kind of food. There was never a limitation of, oh, we don't eat that or we don't, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I had food from around the world as a very young child. I was exposed to all forms of Chinese cuisine, Korean cuisine, Japanese food, Ethiopian food,
Mm-hmm.
European foods, like all of it
Yeah.
as a child. Because everywhere you went, there's an enclave in San Francisco where
Right.
you really are. I mean, it's quite privileged to have access to so many incredible foods and fresh produce. And I grew up going to the farmers market from the time I was probably like 4 years old.
Wow. Well, and
Yeah,
then San Francisco is like, well, not San Francisco, but Berkeley in the Bay Area,
hmm,
home of Alice Waters and
for
Shaken
sure.
East and all of this.
Yes.
So, you kind of it was kind of in the zeitgeist.
Yes, completely. And I started baking when I was 8 years old. And I worked in restaurants from the time I was 21. And it was absolutely during that period of when
Hmm.
farm to table was really, uh, it was sort of that was like the energy that was happening in all of the restaurants. And I was a maitre d' at like one of the most popular restaurants where literally all the produce was coming from the farmers market. It was a total scene. It was a really exciting time to be in restaurants in San Francisco for sure.
And which restaurant was that?
Restaurant Lulu at Fourth
Okay.
and Folsom. Um, and I mean, it was like everybody went there. It was amazing. It was an amazing place and very, and everything was served family style,
Hmm.
totally organic, extremely seasonal, um, all Ligurian cuisine. So I
Mm.
was there from 90, I was a maitre d' from like 94 to 98, and then I moved here.
How was the maitre d' life? My wife was a maitre d' in New
Hmm.
York for a while, and she mentioned that you kind of have a lot of power when you're a
Hmm.
maitre d', especially at such a popular spot.
I loved it. I loved it because you really had to think on your feet. Um,
Hmm.
and this was before you had all those seating apps. Everything was manual.
Hmm.
So and there were 3 rooms that I had to seat at that specific restaurant. So I had a reservation list, and then I would have to assess walk-ins, VIP walk-ins, and seat each table and get 3 turns out of each table. Like
Wow.
it was a very layered game of Tetris every night. I loved it. I thought it was a thrilling job to have. It was a lot of fun. And we were all like little door divas. We all had, clothing stores would like take care, like we were like, micro influencers before that happened because stores
Yeah.
would like comp us clothes because we would wear them at these restaurants that were very popular, and people would be like, where'd you get your dress? Here's where I got my dress. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was a pretty it wasn't a bad deal. I have to say, it was a great situation to be in my early 20s, and I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot too. It was a
Yeah.
very stimulating environment for
Yeah.
sure.
What a time. I mean, for
What a
that
time.
to like to be the OG influencers, when you said it, I was like, wait, how does that work? But that actually makes a ton of sense.
Hmm.
You are all in sort of the shop window of
Yes.
like the hottest spots. So
Hmm.
of course that like the marketers would want to reach out to you to like, be the spokespeople, well, at least the models, if you will, for their products. It makes total sense. Did you have any, you know, because obviously hotspots, San Francisco, the '90s. Did you have any like fun run-ins?
Oh my God, there were tons. And all the celebrities who uh whenever they were in town shooting, like Johnny Depp, Keanu Reeves, Bill Clinton, um, Jeremiah Tower always went there. He always came late after his restaurant Stars was closed, and he would show up with sort of a coterie of attractive young people. Alice Waters was always around. Like it was just it was a thing. Marion Cunningham from the Fannie Farmer
Yeah,
Cookbook, who's such a legend, she was a regular. Um, it was very much a who's who of California
yeah.
cuisine at a very, very interesting time.
So when did you get the bug to switch from front of house to back of house?
Well, I moved here in '98 and I was managing Les Deux Cafés, which was owned by
Hmm.
Michelle Lemmy, who is Rick Owens'
Hmm.
wife and quite a celebrity now as well.
Yeah.
And I moved here and I was the manager of that restaurant until it closed in 2003. And that's where I really learned a lot. Like, that's where like all the pieces really came together for me of creating a true brand, creating an experience. I met tons of people there that definitely assisted with the launch of Valerie Confections. And my whole life, I always baked and made candy. So it was sort
Hmm.
of like this private thing that I did. And it was really
Yeah.
my solace. It was a creative outlet. And I was very hesitant to do it as a profession because I thought,
Hmm.
no, the front part, like the business end of it, the hospitality end of it is I'm okay like earning my keep doing that. If I
Yeah.
if this thing that I truly love doing becomes the way that I earn a living, what if it ruins the love? You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like it was
Yeah.
really my safe space and the thing that I just adored doing. But I always made gifts for people and I would do these
Hmm.
very elaborate selections of baked goods and chocolates and such and give them to people. And totally self-taught. I would just like make this.
That's so hard. I mean, I totally hear what you're saying
Hmm.
because, like, there's that old adage, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in
Yes.
your life. But then there's the flip side of that
Hmm.
is if something that you love becomes your job and how you make your livelihood, it just gets all this extra baggage attached. I
Yes.
used to make podcasts in my bedroom just for myself, and that was fun. But I'm just kidding. I never did that. But I totally hear where you're coming from. So what was it like for you? Like what? How did you overcome sort of that fear of like taking this thing that was something you loved and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go all in on this and see if I can make it into a business."
Well, sort of the hobby aspect of it had become so extreme that people were just like, okay, you are now wasting your time. You need to start your own business. Like, this is nuts.
Mm,
And my now husband and I were dating at the time, and he and I would collaborate after we got together. We would like collaborate on these gifts, and we called it Tall and Small Productions because he's 6'4" and I'm a little under 5'3", so physically we're quite different.
yeah,
And
and it's all
yeah,
relative.
he's really good at graphic design and packaging design and stuff like that. So he did a lot of the exterior stuff, and I would do all the recipes, and we would put it together. And the last year that we did that, which was holiday 2003, people were just like, okay, this is real. Like, seriously, you need to start something. And at that same
Yeah.
time, the restaurant Les Deux Cafe closed because Michelle moved to Paris. So I sort of just hung out for like a month and had a lot of lunches and just sort of thought about what I wanted to do. And then one day I was like, it's toffee. I'm going to start a luxury toffee company because
Hmm.
at the time no one was doing upscale toffee. It was all like truffles, and luxury chocolate was really, really happening in the early
Yeah.
aughts. Like it was huge. Like there was so much luxury everywhere. And I
What were the like brands that were doing it, or the stores?
Vosges was huge then,
Mm.
out of Chicago. Katrina Markov's company, Maribel, Michael Ricciuti, La Maison de Chocolat had opened a couple of boutiques in New York,
Hmm.
Keys in New York. So there was this whole thing happening in chocolate, but
Yeah.
also like in candles and perfume. Like there were these
Yeah, yeah,
little like
yeah,
luxury item things that were really taking off. And so I just thought I'm going to apply all of the like the way that truffles have different flavors. I'm going to apply that to toffee and make it really,
yeah.
really
Mm.
refined in keepsake boxes. So we studied a lot of branding of like Chanel, Prada, that sort of thing, and sort of modeled those templates a little bit in our packaging so that there were boxes that you would want to keep. And like, you
Yeah,
know what
I
I
love
mean?
that.
And put like your cufflinks in or your, your cash in or whatever people put in small boxes. I'm not
Hmm.
here to judge people's hobbies. Um, whatever
For
people,
people's storage
keep
habits. Yeah,
keep on
totally.
their dressers. So that's kind of how it all started. And
That's so
it
cool.
launched quickly. It launched very, very quickly. Our first account was Dean and DeLuca, which is
Hmm.
crazy because they're bankrupt now.
Yeah.
Um, we were at Takashimaya in New York on Fifth Avenue. Like we were positioned in a lot of very prestigious specialty food areas of the
Where
country.
were you? Did you have a commissary kitchen, or were you doing it from home?
Oh, hon, when we started, it was like all smoke and mirrors. So we had a
Yeah.
little two-bedroom apartment in Mid City, and our second bedroom
Uh-huh.
was our office. We set up a second phone line for Valerie Confections. The only way that you could order was via fax or phone. And
Oh,
we
wow.
had a website that was shot like it was a complete riff on that spring Miu Miu campaign. So it looked really elegant and very, very pretty. And no one could tell that we were doing everything out of our apartment. We
Yeah.
had like
That's
an 18-year-old intern. It was me, Stan, and an 18-year-old intern. And
that's great.
like,
It's honestly like I feel like so many people like hear like what it takes to start a
yeah.
business and they're like, well, I can't do it because of X or Y. And they
Hmm.
come up with all these like faux barriers,
Yep.
if you will. You just got to kind of do it and fake it till you make it
Totally.
sometimes.
Stan was waiting tables at night. Like we didn't pay ourselves for like 2 years. Like that's how it is.
Yeah.
When you're a true
Yeah.
startup, you don't have a budget to pay yourself. Like you have
Yeah.
to make sure that you've got enough money to keep the company moving and to keep it going. And then, once you get established, you can start to draw some money. But no, we both had like jobs that were actually paid to do things. And we were doing all of this, it was just blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of
Totally.
really pretty boxes and a lot of really pretty ribbon, and we got press right away. Um, and it just grew from there.
Yeah. So when you were first fulfilling your orders
Hmm.
to the Dean and DeLucas
Hmm.
of the world, did you have a moment where you were like, I'm an imposter. Like, are you sure you want to be? But like, I can only imagine like if I'm doing it out of my
Hmm.
apartment and all of a sudden I'm supplying one of the like most luxurious stores with my product with the things I'm making. Like, I would get a little freaked out. Can I do this?
I don't think I got freaked out. It was more, uh, like, did I think of myself as an imposter at the time? Probably a little bit. Probably because
Yeah.
very quickly we were put on like best chocolate lists, which is like
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
hysterical. But I had been, I we were making an excellent product, and it
Hmm.
and I'd always been doing this, even though I wasn't classically trained, and I had been
Hmm.
exposed to so much of the food industry for so long that I think I
Yeah.
felt versed in that way.
Yeah.
But owning a company and dealing with taxes and dealing with all the permits and all, that garbage stuff that makes you want to die a little bit, that was all really, really hard to set up and
Yeah.
try to navigate and figure out. But then also because I was the manager of a restaurant, I understood a lot of like all the payroll stuff and all the, a lot of the filings and all that kind of stuff. That so that end of it all sort of came together too. But it was definitely, it was a massive juggle. It was a massive,
Yeah.
massive juggle for sure.
And so you did Valerie Confections for several years
Mhm.
before you actually opened Valerie Echo Park as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. So Valerie Echo Park is almost 10. Wild.
Wow. It feels like it opened
That
yesterday.
cute little cafe. God, Echo Park is like the most loyal community. I just have such gratitude for that whole neighborhood. And just, we actually had our best month ever last month, 10 years in. Isn't that
Wow.
great? Like, I was just like,
Congratulations.
that's so, that's, that's nuts. Like, that's really amazing. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good feeling. Like,
You don't you don't see that often. I feel like
hmm
a lot of these places that open up, especially in some neighborhoods like Echo
hmm
Park, I, I, they tend to like burn really
hmm
bright really
hmm
fast, and then I think it's hard to sustain success over a period of like 10 years,
hmm
right?
Well, I always say to our staff and to a variety of people that we work with is we've never been the hot flash. We've
Mm.
never been the cool kids, ever, ever,
Mhm.
ever. We've
Mhm.
never been that place that all of a sudden gets like nuts buzz. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
We've always been
I
slow and steady, slow and steady, slow and
I
steady.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of humility on your part because I definitely have remembered times in the culinary zeitgeist where your name was absolutely everywhere and my friends were like, "Oh, you want to go get a coffee at Valerie Echo Park? It's a super cute spot." And they were like, so like I do feel you've burned bright as well, but it's just amazing that like you've been able to sustain it. And the fact that you had your best month ever last
Mm-hmm.
month,
It's
especially,
weird.
people forget too
Yes.
that like we've navigated a
Mm-hmm.
pandemic and you've navigated a pandemic
Mm-hmm.
as a business owner. I'm curious, what was that like having to go through that period, both with Valerie
Mm-hmm.
Confections and Valerie Echo Park? Because I can only imagine that, you know, demand for chocolate was an uncertain thing and confections was an uncertain thing during the pandemic.
No, chocolate was very much in demand,
Through the
just like
roof.
alcohol, because it was
Okay,
like
there you go.
anything that will numb your freak out, your depression, your anxiety, people were buying by the
Ah,
truckload. So, the pandemic actually the pandemic is weird. We were curiously prepared for the pandemic because we got our company through the recession. And
mm-hmm.
so, because and the recession, I would say, was terrifying. Um,
Yeah.
like the winter of 2008, our little company was then 4 years old, and we had gotten it to the point where we were extremely well positioned to really like explode. We had
Yeah.
the cover of the Dean and DeLuca catalog. We had like 3 pages in the Williams Sonoma catalog. We were in Bergdorf
Wow.
Goodman. We were like all the key players for specialty food, like upscale specialty food, we had great positioning for, and it
Mm-hmm.
all crashed. So our sale, like the quarter where we were like, we are lining the sucker up. We like really put all of our money into front loading for that, and it was a disaster. And
Yeah.
then, right, so the very beginning of 2009 was when I just kind of went, we've got to rejigger here. And we focused on local at the beginning of
Hmm.
2009. And we set up farmers market booths, and I developed a line of pastries. And we did what people now call a pivot. We did a massive
Yeah.
pivot during the recession, and that kept us going and diversified our brand and we became an everyday treat as opposed to a gifting treat or a holiday
That's so
treat,
smart.
and at a much lower
I,
price point as well. So
and that was key during the recession,
huge,
right? I remember
huge.
what I remember about that time is that was right around the time that I moved to LA,
Hmm.
actually. And, I was looking for my first job, and I happened to find a job at a little store I like to call J.
Oh
Crew.
yeah.
Don't know if you've
Oh
heard of it.
yeah.
But we got so much business during
Hmm.
the recession because there were folks that used to shop at, like,
Yep.
Bloomingdale's and North, and they needed something that still gave them, that sort of like feeling of purchasing something new,
Hmm.
but at a lower price point. So they, J. Crew was like really, really busy, especially the one in Century City where I worked.
Hmm.
I'd like to take some credit for that, but I
All you,
can't.
baby.
But
All you.
but
Luca made it happen.
it's a Luca made it happen. That's the name of my autobiography. Um, that is a very smart pivot because, to your point, I feel like that's what people would have
Hmm.
gravitated towards during the recession. Slightly lower price point, something that you're getting on an everyday basis. And how did that go for you, going from, like, the Dean and DeLucas of the world to showing up at the farmers market? What was that like?
Hard. It was really, really
Yeah.
hard. And I mean, my husband had to like wake up at the crack of dawn and set up these booths. Like it was a lot of
Yeah.
heavy lifting. We had our first kid in 2007, so an infant through all of this as well.
Wow.
It was really hard, but then it really did change our company. And like we wouldn't have opened
Hmm.
Echo Park or our other cafes if we hadn't developed that whole line of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it actually facilitated growth in a funny way. And we ended up not, I mean, we didn't collapse. You know what I mean? It kept us
Yeah.
going and kept us moving forward. Um, and then in 2013, we opened Valerie Echo Park and Valerie Grand Central Market. We did
Hmm.
close Grand Central Market in 2018, and
Yeah.
we also had our commissary kitchen, which was on First Street then, um, on Virgil, so sort of like south of Silver Lake. So
We're like, so you're like squirrels
yeah,
neighbors, kind of.
exactly. Like a few blocks down from Squirrel was where we were for years, years and years. So when the pandemic hit, what was interesting is I think we already had that muscle memory of, you
Yeah.
know, don't think of closing, keep going. Immediately we
Hmm.
figured out we didn't need to close because, and we
Hmm.
also had shipping capabilities set up because we
Yeah.
already were shipping all over the country. And so we were in actually a very fortunate position where we just had to be smart and agile. And I just kind of looked at things as everything was starting to crash and went, and I wasn't looking at what we couldn't do. I was looking at what can we do. And I
Yeah.
think it's a
Yeah.
real like, what's that black or white uh uh grid where
Rorschach?
yes, it's like that thing.
Yeah,
You
the
know what I
Rorschach
mean?
test. Yeah.
So, and that was all I focused on was what can we do? What can we sell? And we realized quickly we didn't have to close Echo Park. We turned it into a marketplace in literally 24 hours. Set up
So
set
smart.
up a second website where people could pre-order things and pick them up. We also realized that nobody could get flour, yeast, toilet paper.
Hmm.
All the grocery stores were empty, but all the wholesalers were packed with stuff. So
Mm.
we literally like, and we already had like, we have in a, our in-house designer. I was like, okay, now we're Valerie Market. let's do, let's design the stickers, folks. So we were like literally like bagging like cute craft bags of flour, you know, marking it up a lot and selling it. Um,
Yeah, as you have
yeah.
to. Yeah.
So it just immediately, and then happened really, really quickly. And we were doing like drop offs for people. We were like, and we didn't close. We didn't close at all. And we were very strict with our staff. And we just sort of made an internal pact of we are all looking out for each other's welfare. If one of us gets COVID, we will likely all get
Yeah.
COVID and this whole thing shuts down. Um, no one had to like, yeah, we just like kept it going and kept it going. and we were so fortunate that we could ship because everybody
Yeah.
wanted things delivered to them. And all of a sudden, people were just like, I don't want one small box of chocolate. I want 10 big ass boxes of chocolate. And it's like, great, off we ship.
Yeah.
So, you
It's
know,
true.
it was really hard. I was homeschooling two children for 14 months
Oh my
and running this
God. Yeah.
company, and it was deep, and it was like a level of stress that was almost undefinable. You know what I mean? Where you're just
Yeah.
like, but you
Yeah.
also just get those survivor blinders on, and it's like, this is what we have to do to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And we've got a family to support, we've got a staff to support, and there is no option, you know? You've got to
Yeah.
keep going.
Well, fast forward to 2023
Yes.
and you've now had your best month
Hmm.
ever, which is amazing.
Thank
Congratulations.
you.
And I understand that there's a new location slash relocation in Glendale coming up.
Well, it already happened, babe. You've got to come
It
over.
already
Yeah.
happened. Oh my,
So
oh wow, I'm sleeping on it.
we've got like a full on compound in Glendale. So we closed that First Street location where we had been for 15 years. Hi. Last year we moved to Glendale. We have a 5,000 square foot space where we
Wow.
have a full retail area and three kitchens. We have an event space. We have a tasting room and lovely office spaces. We have an employee kitchen so that like they can have like a great break area that's really well stocked. We've got a smoothie station for our staff.
You've come a long way from that 2 bedroom apartment in Mid City,
I
huh?
mean, listen, no, it kind of feels the same to me. I was like, there's a lot of the same struggles every day. We have a nicer house for sure. Like our facility is a lot nicer than it used to be.
Yeah.
But and it's fun. Like we're doing tons of activations there. We're doing classes. Like we hosted a sample sale from Natalie Martin last week. We're doing afternoon teas. We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot. So it's really
Wow.
fun because I love hosting events, and that has really been an exciting thing to bring that to fruition, to bring different people together and have a space where we can do that and to host things. And the
Yeah.
afternoon tea thing is like a full on lifelong fantasy because I love afternoon tea.
What Well, so talk me, is it like a high tea situation where you come, you get tea and like biscuits and things like
Yeah,
that?
so it's definitely, I would say it's a very California, a modern California take on afternoon tea. It's all in our garden,
Okay.
and it's on like ceramic platters. There's no tiered towers, there's no chintz, there's no florals. It's very, it's more about like muted earth tones and really delicious food. So,
Oh, I love
yeah,
that.
so we're doing, you get scones and lemon curd, and of course we make pedophores. So there's pedophores. We're doing tea sandwiches from house-made milk bread, a lovely selection of
Wow.
teas. It's really, every one of them is totally sold out. It's crazy. So it's pretty exciting because really I was being just incredibly self-indulgent when I said, let's just try an afternoon tea. I was like, I just want to do it. Like, let's just see what happens. And
It makes perfect
yeah,
sense,
people
you
want
know?
it.
Yeah.
They want the afternoon
Yeah.
tea. There is like a frenzy. Like as soon as we release dates, they're just like book, 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 booked, done.
Yeah.
So it's pretty, I think we booked it out for the day before Easter was the first day. We had two seatings, totally sold out. The day before Mother's Day, same thing. Day before Father's Day, we've got a midsummer tea, and we're definitely going to move it to every Saturday because the demand is quite high,
Wow.
and it's lovely. It's really, really lovely. Like people are just like
I
sitting in the
love that.
garden, and there's something like so indulgent and leisurely about afternoon tea.
Yes.
It's just about
Yes.
enjoyment.
I also love the sort of like rhythm of like having something that you can look forward
Hmm.
to as a consumer,
Yeah.
like if you know like
Valerie's got the teas going on
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays. Mark my calendar, whenever I can, I'll go, that kind of thing. There's like a beautiful rhythm
Mm-hmm.
that's happening in Los Angeles right now. There's like Thai Taco
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday over at Anna Jack in the
Love
Valley.
Justin.
There's Danielle.
Yeah.
Yeah, Daniele Uditi is doing
Mm-hmm.
pasta nights every few Tuesdays and now to have something like this on a Saturday, it's just, I love the rhythm the city is like offering us as eaters. It's a beautiful time to be eating in
It's
Los
really good.
Angeles.
We're so spoiled. It's
Yeah,
really, really good.
we are.
It really is. It's such a wonderful time for the food industry. And there was so much challenge. And I feel like, I mean, when I moved here in 98, there were like five restaurants that anyone talked about. You know what I mean? Literally
Yeah,
five. And
Campanile. What were
yeah, it
the?
was Campanile. Luke had just opened.
Yeah,
There were just so Spago. Um,
of course.
but there was just a very small handful of destination restaurants. And now it's like, it's nuts. It's everywhere. There's so much good food and also creative food, interesting food.
Yeah,
It's exciting. It's good
yeah,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Well, hey, there's so much. There's one thing that I wanted to make sure we
Hmm.
touched on before I let you go back to Glendale, and that is, I noticed that we have a shared passion for barbecue.
Oh, yes.
Um, and I'm so curious about this, how you got into it, and like, I know you're judging
Hmm.
contests and whatnot, like from one barbecue lover to another. How the heck do you get to do that, you know?
I implied myself on the barbecue community. So I was like a freaky barbecue stalker. And yeah,
Nice.
I wrote a cookbook a while ago, and when I was on book tour, I I was sent out to be in Texas for like 10 days, and I was by myself. And this was like in
Uh-huh.
2013 or 2014. And I was like, what am I going to do in Texas by myself for 10 days? And I didn't know anyone in Texas at the time. And I was like, I'm going to learn about barbecue. So I like went, I researched and I came up with a list and went all over to like everywhere I stopped. I was like, where's the best barbecue here? Where's the best barbecue here?
Hmm.
And that experience really made me fall in love with barbecue. And what I fell in love with was the ritual of how barbecue is
Hmm.
made and also the community
Yeah.
around barbecue and how convivial it is.
Hmm.
And so I would just kind of like stalk different barbecue events and pop-ups. And then I started, when I would see barbecue events happening, I would contact whoever was planning and be like, hey, this is who I am. Um, and I want to do desserts at your barbecue thing. And
Oh,
I
brilliant.
and I've developed over 30 recipes to do desserts on grills over live fire. And there aren't, particularly when I started doing this, there were very few women. And I'm also
Yeah.
minority. And so reaching out to people and being like, "Hi, I'm seeing there's no women and no dessert. Can I get on your roster?" And I think it was kind of hard for people to say no, you know, because it's
Yeah.
not the
I
best
mean,
look to say no, right?
no, of course not. But also, like every barbecue needs a dessert.
And I always say there's so much more that you can do beyond a grilled peach. So, like
Yeah.
actual desserts on the barbecue, and from that, I started getting into different events, and then I started. I actually MC a barbecue boot camp at the Alisal twice a year, three times a year. I'm coordinating a
So
variety of
cool.
different barbecue events with different people. I do a lot of live fire content, and I do savory and sweet, absolutely now.
Hmm.
And it's a whole like side thing that I do that I just adore. I mean, I did a video last week using, do you know Smallhold, the mushroom people? Ah,
No, I
dude,
don't.
like it's genius. It's the future of mushrooms. But I did a lion's mane mushroom banh mi that was like over
Wow.
the grill,
Oh,
and it was so, and that video just like blew up because I was just like searing these mushrooms until they got totally caramelized. And I used fish
oh
sauce
my
and
God.
butter and like grilling this buttery bread. And it it's just, that's the kind of stuff that I do. I just go for really big flavor, make it fun, and just the barbecue community, I just adore. I adore.
Yeah,
And eating barbecue is like, and that smell, like after you leave a good barbecue and
yeah,
like everything smells like smoke and it's so
yeah,
awesome.
totally. Yeah, yeah. They should bottle
Right?
that up and make
And
that a
it just
perfume,
like,
right? Yeah.
it's transportive. And there's just like
Uh-huh.
immediately this feeling of like joy and also relaxation. Like you're never in a rush
Hmm.
at a barbecue.
It's
When
true.
you
Yeah,
watch like
yeah.
Adam Perry Lang slice brisket, it's the most zen activity in the world, the way
Hmm.
he slowly slices that off. And everyone's just queuing up with their Topo Chico and their beer and their micheladas. And it's just joy. It's great. Yeah.
Beautiful. And there's a little bit of a parallel between the life of a baker and the life of a
Mm-hmm.
barbecue pit master in the sense like early
Mm-hmm.
mornings, a lot of
Yep.
patience, a lot of repetition and whatnot. And there's something so
Yes.
meditative about it too, at least in the pit master world where you're
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, just letting something go low
Mm-hmm.
and slow for hours. You're in this like smoky, almost like sauna-esque environment. I can only imagine some deep, deep
Yeah.
reflections have happened
Oh,
in barbecue
yeah.
pits. Yeah. Well, Valerie, look, I know we're approaching time, but I have to ask you one more
Okay.
question, and that is, I'm eating 100
Whoa.
sandwiches in LA this year. 100. That actually doesn't sound like a lot, but good job acting surprised because if you think about it, 100
Mm-hmm.
sandwiches is just like having
Mm-hmm.
lunch 3 times a
Mm-hmm.
week or something. But my goal is to do epic
Okay.
sandwiches, like kind of that
Mm-hmm.
mushroom one you just outlined. That sounds epic, right? What would you recommend as someone who loves food, someone who knows bread, someone who loves big flavors? What are your favorite sandwiches in LA
I
right now?
love Maison Mathos on Melrose. That dude,
I've
oh,
never even
dude,
heard of it.
it's incredible. He does an omelet. First of all, he's so cute. He wears like the full, like, chapeau, full chef's gear. Maison Mathos, it's teeny. It's a closet. It's on Melrose near Western on the south
Okay.
side. You'll Google it. There's two things you need from them though. You need the butter and ham sandwich with it is it's transcendent. It's so good, but really their omelet sandwich is what you want. It is, and it's
Mm.
got like Gruyere, it's ooey, it's enormous, it's beautifully cooked.
Mm-hmm.
They bake their own bread. It is, I love that place. I just think what they're doing is super, super important and really, really delicious. It's great.
Very
Yeah, go
cool.
there. Yeah.
Maison Mathos, written down, logged in my
It
mind.
needs to
I'll
be
be
on the
there.
100 for
Valerie,
sure. Yeah.
oh, it'll be there. It'll be there. Well, I hope to see you at a tea in
Pop
Glendale
out.
very soon.
Yes.
I absolutely will. But thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a delight. And congratulations on all
Thank
your
you.
success.
Congratulations to you. You kept J. Crew going. You and Jenna Lyons,
I did.
you
I
did
did.
it.
Yeah, no, it was really hard work, and the
Oh,
Gingham
babe,
community
I
thanks me.
bet.
Um, yeah,
This was
yeah.
super fun. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Valerie.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the LA Food Podcast. Thanks to Valerie Gordon for joining us. If you like what you heard, please go to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating, a review, subscribe if you should be so inclined. And if you're looking for me, you can find me on TikTok and on Instagram at the LA Countdown. That's TheLACountDown.